Hey everyone, welcome to the program WRSA Radio. I'm your host, G1, as always. Hope you're having a good week. Well, it has been a good one for me. I did manage this week to find a part-time job that will at least give me a little bit of income for a short period at least, maybe till I can find something more permanent. Not sure how long I'll be working there, but for the time being, it will be fine. The problem is that I will not be able to do a show on Friday. So that means future episodes, again, at least for the near term, will be posted on Thursday at some point in time. Probably Thursday evening. Might be posting them late in the day. Thursday, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, something like that at night. But you'll have it to listen to on Friday a little earlier. so that's good. I'm not sure, what it's all going to look like yet, so I'll kind of figure that out as I go along. But I do intend to get you guys a show every week as frequently as I can. Obviously things come up sometimes. Life gets in the way. I wish I could do this as a job, but it just doesn't work out that way. But at any rate, so what is the show about this week? Well, a major question that has been kind of hanging out there over everything in this administration is, when will we see some arrests and prosecutions? We know that criminal activity has taken place. Corruption is still there. The deep state is still there. We know all these things, and yet nothing seems to be happening. Well, it looks like we finally have some movement in that regard, although it's small steps. Over at the mothership, Concerned American has posted a new piece from James Howard Kunstler today that it's a pretty good one. It's short, but it does give some details on what is taking place. So go over and give that one a read. And in this, Kunstler asked a question that, I want to take a little bit of a stab at answering it. He's asking it rhetorically, but I'll spell it out. I want to dive into it a little bit and kind of maybe get your guys' feedback on this, what you think about it. Because he asked, how do you investigate and prosecute these government officials and this government official misconduct without appearing to be going after your enemies, as the saying is? And that's a fair and honest question. It's something that I've kind of been seeing coming for some time, because the deep state mobilized against Trump, so in force. When he comes into office, and if he takes this heavy-handed approach, he's going to kind of fall into this trap that's been laid for him. The media, ever willing to toe the party line, will just devour him for being petty and vindictive and small. Like he's just childish for wanting to get the people that tried to ruin his life and really literally tried to take his life. And it's just so weak and selfish of him. I mean, that's how they're going to play that out. And it doesn't matter that the media's reach is, the mainstream water-toting media's reach is not as far as it used to be. They don't have as much sway and pull as they used to. There's still a considerable number of people who are casual observers of the media sphere and the political sphere, who get their news from that, in that regard, from the mainstream media. They don't watch that media really for the day-to-day goings on. It's just, what's interesting happening today, or what happened in sports, what happened in this, and so they just casually pay attention to political stuff. That's how they get their information. And they will buy that. They'll pick that up, and they'll be like, man, I just don't like what Trump's doing. So how does he accomplish this? How does he go about these things without appearing to be this vindictive, evil small person. Because if Trump were half the person that the left accuses him of being, he would simply have a covert, off the books, black bag group of dudes who would just go to work in the middle of the night and make these people just go away. One at a time, they would have accidents and tragedies that befell them, and the world would wonder out loud, but deep down know that this was not a man to mess with. It would be like people just getting sick and going into the hospital with odd poisoning and things like that, But Trump's not that guy. In spite of what they keep telling you, he's nothing like that, which is, it's a shame in a lot of ways, because that's one way to take care of this problem, okay? And it has a lot of finality to it. Probably not the best way, not the way that we need as a country to take care of this issue. So I guess it may be a little bit of a shame, but in a lot of ways it's a good thing that he's not the person that they accuse him of being. So what's the way that we make this happen, that we get to this? And I think I've talked about this on the show before, but I wanted to kind of dive into it again. I think this has to be kind of multifaceted. I think you have to do this like you take down a drug cartel. You start at the bottom and you work your way to the top. So you investigate these low-level actors, and you have to build a flawless case against them. And at that point, you put them on record and you put them under oath and you make them tell that story. And this is going to open the door to these higher and higher level people. And eventually, you'll get to the top. Now, you might reach a point where you get to somebody who says, well, I'm going to take one for the team because I don't want to offend Hillary Clinton and end up a tweet or something like that. So you might run into somebody like that. But at some point in time, you'll get somebody that will roll. And it will go all the way to the top, because make no mistake about this goes all the way to the top. And at the same time that you're doing this, you've got to have transparency. You have to be very open about what and why you are doing what you are doing. And that is the real difficult part. You have to present the information in such a way that tells everyone that there is no doubt that the next person up the chain was involved in this criminal enterprise, and that you're following the facts, and the facts clearly justify and demand a prosecution, that the facts show that the law was broken. Here's the law. We got to do what we got to do. You have to have good lawyers who can lay out, good prosecutors who can lay out a clearly articulated and sound legal theory of the case that's practically open and shut. And that was the downfall, thankfully, that was the downfall of these anti-Trump cases. They were so desperate to put something together that they were grasping at straws and just trying to glue together multiple cases that were just so filled with holes and so flimsy on a legal standpoint that they just couldn't hold any water. You can't have that. You have a very short window, too, to make this happen. It has to be well underway when the midterm elections come about. It has to be so clear where it's going that the midterm elections can't stop it. And in fact, if you've got this clearly spelled out, this becomes a way to ride a significant victory during the midterms. Get people on board with this. Hey, look how far this corruption went. Look what they were doing. Look how they were destroying this country. We're going to put a stop to this. And to put a stop to this, we've got to maintain control of the Congress. What about those midterms? Well, what needs to be rolled into all of this is election integrity. And as you'll see in that JHK piece, there's an investigation into that that's being kicked off as well. Tulsi Gabbard announced that, or talked about that. So part 3 of this strategy has to be dealing with the election misconduct. And what I propose is that during the midterm elections, the newly cleaned up and constituted Department of Justice should have teams in every state ready to go on election night to counter the efforts of those who attempt to keep the polls open beyond their appointed time, and to do these massive ballot drops late in the middle of the night, all those kind of things. And that would be in addition to as many pre-election challenges and injunctions that you can get into place. If the Republicans were not the weak bottom bitches that they are, they would already be working and filing those injunctions now. The goal needs to be a return to paper ballots, one day to vote only, no mail-in ballots unless you're military and out of the country, and the counts need to be completed by midnight local time. That needs to be how we run an election. We did that way for decades, and it worked. That's what we need to get back to. Ensuring that you have a real even chance of holding on to that majority in Congress keeps you from having to watch that flank. You can focus on the real work that needs to be done. At that point, you can begin really taking on the real deep state, digging them out, kicking and screaming. But let's be honest, how many of you think that's really going to happen? Donald Trump has never been a savior. He was never going to be a savior. He was always just a means to buy time and to weaken the enemy as much as possible. Now, I still hold out hope that we can make real progress and do as much damage as we can to them, but I have no illusions that this is going to happen with any kind of ease or simplicity. There's going to be a bloody struggle, and I hate that. I don't want that, but I don't see any other way around this. It's kind of interesting. I've been watching one of my favorite YouTube channels this week, Cinema Tyler. He does a fantastic documentary-style presentation on different films, and I just love it. It's a great channel. It's probably one of my favorite YouTube channels. He has a very comprehensive series on Apocalypse Now, the masterpiece from Francis Ford Coppola. And you should go watch that series as well as his other videos. He's got a whole bunch on Kubrick films, and you guys know I love Stanley Kubrick. It's really top-notch stuff. But at any rate, I watched this series, and I think back on the film and the book really as well, the Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness. We're on the boat, and we're sailing up the river, and we're at that bridge. And you remember in the film, the bridge is the gateway. It's in this state of continuous change because it's being built and destroyed at the same time. One side wants the bridge open and sound enough that they can tell their leadership that it's up and open, and the other side wants it damaged enough that they can tell their leadership that it's broken and not open. And so they're in this continuous conflict and state of dynamic change, building and destroying at the same time. Beyond that point in the river, you enter a world that is no longer truly real. It's a hellish place where there's only small outposts of reality that remain. And those are constantly assaulted by the ongoing conflict and this kind of swirling fever dream environment that is outside of them. And that is our future. That's where we're going. There are monsters up the river that we have to slay, not because we're loyal to the system or loyal to or have a sense of duty, but because we have to do it to survive. We must do it to cleanse our soul. It's our national soul that we're dealing with here. We've all got a bit of this darkness on us because we lived through all of this and we didn't do anything to stop it. Or we did very little to stop it. We have to come to this realization as a people, and the only way that we're going to do that is to bring people to justice and expose to the light of day what has been taking place. And if you think that's a tall order, you damn skippy it is. I don't think that we can depend on other people to do this for us. In fact, I think that's more of what got us here in the first place. I don't think the admin is going to be able to accomplish this on its own or by itself. It's dealing with too many forces on the inside who are still corrupted and bent and misshapen to really make any kind of significant headway. They can do some things and accomplish some things if we have the political will. We really just have to depend on the admin to kind of fly cover for us and keep the censorship and the deplatforming from happening. We empower them by our ability to vocalize what type of action and what we want to happen. This information will get out. You can't stop the signal, as we've talked about before, but if we have the assurances that we will not be silenced, then that signal can't be confined to just the small corners of the internet. It will become memes, and it will become viral, and it will spread faster than the elite can contain it. I see these cracks already forming and opening. I see conversations happening on the big platforms that you didn't see just a few years ago. You still saw censorship taking place. I want to make a couple of recommendations in that regard before I close here. Like him or not, Tucker Carlson has been putting out consistently awesome shows for the last several weeks. You should be watching these. You should be subscribing to his channel, or at least go into his channel on YouTube or whatever platform, however you follow him, and watching what he's putting out. Because even if you just put them on in the background and do other things, you need to hear these conversations. Specifically, you should listen to the 2 episodes on the pandemic. One of the episodes with Dr. Mary Talley Bowden, I believe her name was, and the other with Dr. Patrick Soon-Shiong. These are just the 2 fascinating people, particularly Dr. Soon. Fascinating person. And they both have these first-hand accounts of what they faced, what they had to deal with inside of the medical community and the medical industry during the pandemic. It's eye-opening stuff, and it's really very frustrating to know that this kind of thing was taking place. And we all kind of probably had some idea that it was going on at the time, but to hear people kind of spell it out and really detail it, the barriers and problems that they encountered, and how this higher up part of the system maneuvered to stop them from doing what they were doing. This is the kind of message that has to be propagated. It has to be spread and made known, because the world is going to come to really understand what happened in 2020. And there's a lot of sadness and woe in the near future that's coming because of that. And if we don't get in front of that and punish the people who did this to us, the world is going to do it for us. And that is all I got time for this week. Like and subscribe. Come see us over on Gab, Nice Crew, and the Cold Fury blog. And I will see you on the next episode.